Ready to collapse time, crush limitations, and turn potential into reality? This is a journey through real lessons from those who've walked the path before you. Welcome to Layers of Leadership, hosted by Dr. Michael Marion Jr.
Welcome to Layers of Leadership podcast. My name is Dr. Michael Marion, and I have the honor and pleasure to be here with a friend, David Sobon.
Dr. Marion. Damn. I keep forgetting that part sometimes.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Most people do. David is the founder, producer, and board chair for the nonprofit Wide Open Walls.
Yeah, they stuck in a title of CEO too, I think.
And
whatever.
CEO.
Whatever I wanted.
And, janitor, whatever they need me to do.
You know that.
We
if you
do
run
it
an
all.
organization, it starts with janitor.
He has been very involved in the Sacramento Metropolitan Art Commission. You've been heavily involved in the art scene. You've done work with the Rotary, Chevo Foundation, American Cancer Association, Weave. But where we met, was the David Sobon Auction Association, where you've raised over $20 million.
Over a long period of time. A long career.
Over 15 minutes.
I can't do that in a year. Maybe not Sacramento, but.
But I'm just thinking about the time that I moved to Sacramento and we met through not only Metro Edge and the work that you were doing with the Metro Chamber, but this work when you got into the art world where you were just diving in, doing some actually really cool shit. And I normally don't curse on my podcast.
Thank you. Some cool shit.
But it's an honor and pleasure to have you on Layers of Leadership podcast. Looking forward to hearing more about you, more about your journey, this entrepreneur space that you've been in for a very long time, but also been very successful at that. So once again, welcome to Layers of Leadership podcast.
I appreciate that, Michael, very much.
So are you originally from Sacramento?
Bay Area native.
Okay.
Moved at a little bit of history. Moved at 17. My mom and dad, I was the oldest of 6, and moved us out of Los Altos.
Los Altos, okay.
We lived on the Mountain View border back when Mountain View was the ghetto, not what Mountain View is
people
today.
say that
So
now?
a long, long time ago.
Okay.
And my family moved up to Amador County.
Okay.
In the late 70s and started Shenandoah Vineyards and then eventually Sobon Estate and another winery. So native, no, but after 45 years, I can call Sacramento home. That's for darn sure.
So let's take it back. How was it growing up in the Bay? What was that like for you?
Hey, I was in the band, man, marching band. I was in all the bands.
That.
I was a band guy, and it was a lot. I think it was probably a great change for me to come here. Probably steering maybe in a direction that wasn't the healthiest.
Okay.
So I don't think I was very happy. I know I wasn't very happy moving to the middle of nowhere, which I thought Plymouth, California was, but with a population of under 500, it is absolutely a middle of nowhere.
Okay.
But it ended up being a good thing.
Okay.
It got me out of some things probably shouldn't have been getting into, and it just kind of put me in a different direction. And from that point, I grew up, I think, just with a great work ethic from both my mother and my father, and their willingness in my father at 40 years old to, move his family up and buy a ranch and let's start a winery from scratch.
Wow. So how old were you when y'all left the Bay?
18.
You were 18.
Yeah.
So you had some time in the Bay. You had kind of got to really grow up, learn about the neighborhood. Yeah. So very diverse neighborhood.
Very.
Okay. What was that like growing up?
Well, actually, the diversity was across El Camino Avenue.
Okay.
So there wasn't a ton of diversity necessarily at my high school.
Oh, okay.
The Bay Area was, I think, pretty Los Altos is a pretty up and coming neighborhood at that time.
Okay.
But it was 2 years or 3 years after we left, then houses went from $25,000 to $1.25 million.
I bet you. I wish I
we
still
got
had
out
that
of
house.
there. Well, but then by the same token, for the amount of money you could sell a house in the Bay Area, you could buy 150 acres with a stone house and a pool in Amador County.
Oh, okay.
So
Fair.
It was kind of, it was a different move, but it was a different move from, city, suburb living to country living.
Okay.
So I took my musical skills and got in a country band playing saxophone. Like,
Really?
who would have figured that one out, right?
So were either of your parents musicians, or how did that whole musical side come to you?
Great question. My dad was just totally into jazz,
Okay.
and I was real fortunate. I mean, I remember every record that he had on his home-built stereo hi-fi system, from back in the day, from Harry Belafonte all the way
outta here.
up to just, I got to tag along and go to every jazz show from, Dave Brubeck to,
Wow.
Maynard Ferguson to, just the whole gamut. And that got me seriously interested into music and just spent a lot of time, playing in different bands at that point.
So grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't as diverse, or a high school that wasn't diverse, but heavily into diverse music and jazz and all those types of things.
Absolutely.
And that was just something that your dad kind of came to, or something that his parents were a part of, or tell me a little bit more about that.
You know what? It's a great question, because I think in a lot of respects, I have the most amount of respect for my father and mother that broke the mold of racism.
There we go.
I grew up in a household where that N-word that was used by my grandpa was not permitted, to the point where you're not allowed to be in this house if you're going to talk like that.
There we go.
I learned at a very, very,
There we go.
very early age that, you never stop learning. Let's get that straight. But I learned from example at a very early age that what was permitted in that house, what was respectful. Grew up in a religious household. Okay. So it was, the diversity, I think, came from church as far as that goes.
There we go. There we go. And based on doing some research, it sounded like you grew up heavily in the church.
As a youngster,
Like most of us.
Well, and then, then there's the spiritual journey, and then it's back in the church, and then it's spiritual journey, and then, okay, it's all about nature right now.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's kind of changed over the years, but I still think of any subject that if I had nothing to do, if I was independently wealthy and didn't need to work, I'd do the auction thing for free, and I'd do wide open walls for free, which, in a sense, you kind of have to before you establish your business. But I'd study religion. I think the most fascinating subject in the world. And if you looked at the library or my list of books that I have on tape right now of what I have read, that subject will always fascinate me.
Yeah, it's always fascinating, because I grew up in the church, and very much a part of me. But like you, I veered away for a little while, and I come back and veer away. So I completely understand. Yeah. So moved to Sacramento, 18 years old. Your family buys a farm, and all of a sudden,
not a winery, a farm,
a farm. And so, what was that like? I know you were like, we just left the city, now we're in a farm.
Yeah. I think one of the most embarrassing things was, before I had a car, that I had to ride the school bus 20 miles to school. That didn't last very long, I'm telling you, because that was not cool.
Okay.
Man, well, the first thing it is, buy a car and get out there and do my thing. But I was, when the business was starting, it was a labor of love for my mother and father. Now, to start a winery, you need to be a millionaire. Back then, all you needed to have is a dream and a really good work ethic and a teeny bit of money to get started. So
really? Okay.
I think the benefit for my folks was, they had 6 kids. Well, what
Put
was it
them to
like
work.
in the olden days? Did kids get paid to do farm chores or plant grapes or any of that stuff? Not so much. But my friends
No labor laws.
But my friends would come up and work.
Okay.
And, they got a little stipend for working for the day. It was,
Maybe a couple bottles.
Shh, come on.
So where are you on the pecking order of your siblings?
I am the oldest of 6.
You're the
I have
oldest.
2 brothers that basically run the family business now, and a nephew that's now the winemaker. So I spent 10 years in the wine business, and then just sort of moved on and did my own thing.
This episode is brought to you by Systems to Solutions. Think smarter, work better. Welcome to Systems to Solutions.
Popular wine, good wine,
Yeah,
well-known wine.
after 40-something years and a million awards, and
They figured it out.
and my father received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the state fair. So he is one of I think a couple dozen, and on par with Mondavi and some of the
incredible.
legends in the winemaking industry, just for what he did in Amador County.
Okay.
Established organic farming and just his sort of scientific expertise of putting into winemaking. And then we ended up buying the D'Agostini winery, which I think is the second oldest winery in California, and changed the name to Sobon Estate. So
That's incredible. So tell me, how did your leadership journey develop, especially in that space, in the winemaking space? And I'm assuming that was probably a pivotal part of your development at some point.
I think that's my first That's not bad.
That's good.
Okay.
I think I had an interview where I did like 25 and I was like, oh my goodness, I got to work on this.
Another good question, because I'm not sure if that's what started it.
Okay.
But there was, my first leadership role was one leading my brother, either into good ideas or bad ideas, right?
We have all done it.
Come on, let's go do this. Let's go dumpster diving, and if we get bicycle parts, we can build bicycles and we can sell them, right?
Yep. Hey.
So maybe that was the first leadership role. But when it came to sort of work and that work ethic, when we moved up there wasn't money to be paid from the winery, so I went and got a job as a bagging groceries, and that ended up turning into something. Okay, it was a skill. I could excel at it. If it wasn't for the leadership and entrepreneurial spirit, I could have retired as a grocer many years ago, because I was the youngest grocerman, or the youngest journeyman clerk in the union.
Okay.
So it was, okay, I can teach all these other baggers how to do it. How do you do it more efficiently? How do you do it faster?
Yes.
And then that led to, okay, I'm running a night crew at 20 years old, right? So I don't know if that's exactly leadership, but it's definitely get your shit together and go.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then I think from there, it was sales across the country for the wine business. And then that sort of developed into a career in radio and media, which is okay.
Right.
I love selling,
You're natural.
everything's selling, no
natural.
matter what you're doing. It could be cars, it could be, in life and all these other things. But that career in radio was something that I just absolutely excelled at and actually loved, being in the sales arena there. And that sort of turned into running an advertising agency, because I had clients that needed me do different things. And so I kind of turned it into something like that after, and
Let's
retail
talk about
career.
That. So how did you get into the radio media space? How did that come about?
It's a good story.
Give it to
ready?
me. Let's go. Got my seatbelt on.
Okay, so Randy Paragary of
really?
Paragary fame, who passed away, he had offices above his restaurant, and I convinced my mother that Shenandoah Vineyards needed an office in downtown Sacramento, and that opened up a lot of doors. When you're hanging out with Betty Vasquez and Stan Atkinson and all of Randy's big time friends, there was an advertising agency led by Patrick Powers next door, and these radio reps are coming in, and they're driving BMWs and freaking fancy suits from Navens, and
wow.
And I'm like, I can sell circles around these people. Like, you work in radio? What's that about? And I kind of figured out, working for the winery at $5 an hour, whatever it was back in the day, it wasn't much.
Gotcha.
That there was more things that I wanted to do.
Yes.
I didn't love the wine business. I thought I would be a winemaker, and then not the chemicals, but basically the sulfites and the things that were used gave me a headache. It kind of bored me. I mean,
really,
a lot of people think it's the most romantic thing in the world. Not for a sales guy.
That makes sense,
right? It's just not that. So I wanted to do something different, and jumping into that business where I decided that I could sell radio better than any of these guys. I had an interview with a gentleman by the name of Bob Sweet at the Pepper Mill. If anybody remembers the Pepper Mill, before the casino, there was a lounge across from Arden Fair Mall.
I've heard about it.
All the stories are probably true. Anyway, back in the day, it was a 3-martini lunch was your job interview. And they said, absolutely not. You have no experience. You don't look the part. You're wearing topsiders and corduroys. And this is a business environment. And I said, well, you don't have to pay me, and I'll come to work. And I showed up on Monday. I sat in the lobby waiting for my appearance of a place to sit. The general sales manager came out, asked what I was doing here. I said, Bob Sweet hired me to start work today. Well, unfortunately, he had a heart attack that weekend and never showed up again.
What?
So they sat me at a desk, and within, I think, 3 months, I was the top biller at the radio station with no experience. So I was extremely motivated by, they get to wear nice suits and drive nice cars, and I can listen and learn.
There we go.
And I basically wanted a chair in between the two best salespeople that were there.
Okay.
Frank Paluch and Fred Hormel sat in between the two of them, and the rest is history as far as that career goes.
Look at that.
So I was motivated.
Yeah. So sometimes people say they're in leadership, you're either running towards something or you were running from something. Ooh. What would you say that was for you?
Do I want to answer that question?
Sure. Why not?
Man, I got to think about that one. I think I was just as successful as your parents are. I think it was, I wanted to be more successful.
Okay.
You know, and the same thing as, I think as a parent, you got to kind of step back and take a look at, they did an amazing job. Yeah. But as a young parent, you can always, oh my God, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. I can do a better job. When you sit back after you've raised kids, now it's like, my God, did I do as good of a job? You know, and I think I was always motivated to do more than my father. I know that they are super proud of me.
Of course.
88 and 90, they're still kicking. I just came back from visiting them at the old senior housing in Elk Grove, and I know how proud they are. Yeah. But by the same token, it's like, okay, you're always striving to do a little bit better. And my father is a leader, and my mother at 88 years old still runs the winery.
Wow. So
talk about work ethic, right?
Serious.
She's not going to retire. She's talking about retired for 8 years or more, and will never do it unless, you know, something else happens. So they still have her leadership up there, and
that's incredible.
I can't ever imagine retiring. I mean, you know, you talk about the joy of working. I find a lot of joy in working, whether it's in, you know, in running Wide Open Walls and, you know, creating all this public art, giving all these new artists opportunities, or whether it's up on stage raising, you know, whether it's $10,000 for a brand new nonprofit or millions of dollars for somebody that's been around. There's a lot of joy in that.
You have done some really cool stuff, David. And let's speed up a little bit. And I'm thinking about David Sobon Auction House. Like, how the heck and where did that come from?
Okay, you know, Michael, sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it, right? Yeah. I think it's actually, there's a lot of sound advice in doing that, because if you don't jump off a cliff sometimes, you're going to sit back and get fat. Well, I might be getting a little bit fat, but I'm never going to stop jumping off cliffs and trying to do the right thing. So I signed up to be on the PTA of my son's Waldorf school.
Okay.
And then before you know it, I am the president of the PTA, because things are moving so slowly, and I'm kind of like,
you're ready to go.
I gotta get stuff
Rev
going.
that engine.
So they sold candy bars and pizza dough and coupon books to raise $8,000 a year, sending stuff home every single month.
Okay.
And I go, all right, I got a new idea. We're going to do a fundraiser. They have these things called galas. They have a big fancy dinner. People pay $100, and they auction out some stuff, and we can make over $10,000. And I said, if I organize this event, should we discontinue all the little minutia so we can concentrate in on one event a year? So I invited 100 friends. They all paid $100 a piece to come have a fancy meal at the winery, and we got 10 auction items donated. I never once thought about who was going to auction them off. I never once thought about how I'm going to do it. I just wrote the stuff down and what was out there. I get up on stage after organizing this dinner and talking about all the wines, because at that point I was still the wine guy.
Okay.
My brother could have been there. I think my dad was there, so he might have gotten up and talking about the wines. And after we did it, You know, this was back when you could just ask for a Chris Webber jersey and a Vlade Divac jersey, and the Kings would give you a couple of each. And these things are selling for thousands of dollars. I get off the stage, and I got two people that come up to me is, oh my God, that's the best auction I've ever been to. How much do you charge? I'm like, charge? You can charge for this? So the next year, it turns out to be a bigger event, and I actually hire an auctioneer.
Okay.
Because I'm too busy. He was terrible.
No names,
I'm like,
no names.
and it was like, oh my God, I can do this, not just for me. And then I started doing the Waldorf schools. And then it was like, can I make a career out of this? And the amount of money that auctioneers were paid, you could not make a career out of it.
Oh.
Nobody was really doing professional fundraising auctions for a living.
Okay.
They were doing cattle auctions and car auctions and storage units. And at $500 a day, 3 or 4 days a month, doesn't work.
Sure.
So I developed a system which I branded, which was just as much consulting as auctioneering and jumping on stage. So we developed a system. I ended up with 3 employees engaging in that system and turning, nonprofit, events from $20,000 to $200,000 and teaching people how to do black tie galas. So it started volunteering, doing something that somehow I had a knack for. And I'm not sure how useful my skill set is for anything else other than that. And what I mean by that is I have an uncanny ability to remember everything you've ever bid at an auction, what your number was and what you paid.
Are you kidding me?
And I'm like, but I can't remember, well, sometimes I can't remember my neighbor's name, but I can remember what my neighbor bid on everything that they ever bought. So it's just like the recall. I guess when you're into something like that and you're totally into it, the recall just becomes like a golfer remembering in a tournament, remembering every single shot they had, what club they used, what happened to it. There's just the desire and part of that memory thing that just worked for me. So I got pretty good at it.
But David, it's impressive to see you up there. I was like, who the hell is this person?
Well, I don't do the cattle call thing. So all of my auctioneers had to go to, auctioneer school.
Okay.
And then they had to go to benefit auction specialist school, which was something that derived after this school is like, how come they're not teaching people how to do benefit auctions, which is sort of the fun part of doing auctioning. So I ended up teaching some of those classes and became a member of that class also. And then during COVID, I decided I was going to go full-time with Wide Open Walls, and I sold the business.
Wow.
But I sold the business. We engaged to sell it before COVID, and the price was fabulous. And then during COVID, it's like, there's no events. I can't.
You had to drop
hey, my friend, I cannot sell it for this. Just make me an offer and take it over, which I did.
I can't believe you sold it.
Well, and I relished the break.
Got it.
But I am proud to say that I'm back.
Get out of here.
Yes, I got the company back. The person that I sold it to, Pat Desmond, trained him, ended up being a great auctioneer. He moved to Chicago and left me with my company back again. So I've got a half a dozen events booked already, and I'm excited about jumping back on that stage. I've done it. I've done it a few times already in the last couple of months, and I missed it. It's just a lot of fun engaging with an audience, and
it's definitely
raising money, having fun.
Like your energy, the way that like you conduct the room. It's just it's a sight, and I like it. It's super cool. So
I got compared once to, how I've seen Frank Sinatra perform a couple times, and my description was right there in the palm of your hand. Every single breath, every single word. Oof. And I mean, that's a lofty
Frank Sinatra.
Well, it's a lofty goal, but I always many times I've thought, how do you control? How are you in charge of that audience? What comes out of your mouth? What is your pacing like? What's the energy, the enthusiasm? And to me, it was the greatest compliment I've ever seen. You've heard. You've got the audience in the palm of your hand, and to me, that's more than just reading the numbers and calling the bids. That's being totally engaged in not just the audience, but the reason that we're raising money, whether it's Habitat for Humanity or ALF. It's like, I believe in these things. And the more you research them and work with the people and work with their leaders, it's like, I'm in. I'm all in. and pretend I'm on your board because I'm that into your organization, and
that's
it makes
what
a
we
big
see.
difference in results.
We see it, and so that's super cool. Like, I didn't know that you sold it, and I'm glad to hear that you got it back. But I'm talking about leadership.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in hearing why you sold it.
I sold it had nothing to do with boredom or not loving what I did. The joy of being on stages. You've done it. There's nothing like it. I mean, if you're into it, you're into it. Right. If you have a microphone, give me a microphone, I'm good to go.
Let's go.
I don't need any prep.
Right.
It's but prep is a big part of doing the auction business. Sure. I sold it because I wanted to devote more time to wide open walls. I wanted to turn it into a different type of an organization. We've basically at that point had produced over 200 works of art in Sacramento, and I wanted to focus more on schools, which I knew was going to take a little bit longer to sort of develop that process. So the first school we painted was Tahoe Park Elementary in the Sacramento City Unified School District. We ended up painting 30 murals at the same time as we were producing it, and it led to a wonderful contract with the school district. And at this point, that contract's been expired, but we have painted almost 250 murals at public schools.
Which is incredible, and we're going to get back to that. But from a business standpoint, I think this is important in leadership and special entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
At some point in time, there was a decision that you made to say, hey, I'm going to sell this business to focus on this other business.
Yeah.
And this is something that you've created, and you started from the start, the ground up. What was it like for you selling that business, especially being a leader?
If I had sold it and the timing was right, it would have felt like, woo, I made some money that's going to go in the bank. That's towards retirement. But because of the situation and the climate and COVID, it wasn't sold for enough to make an impact at all. So it was one more of, honestly, concern because, I volunteered as the CEO and founder of Wide Open Walls and didn't get paid for the first 4 years.
Wow.
So the board had finally approved, okay, this is going to happen. This is before COVID. Wow. You're going to be able to be paid not as a CEO, but you're going to be paid as an employee, and we're going to make a go out of it.
Got it.
But then COVID happened.
Understood.
So it went from, sometimes when you jump off the cliff, the timing isn't always right. Right?
That's big.
So it came from a very lucrative career as an auctioneer. I've never been inexpensive, but I think it's worth to pay the money to have an expert do that job.
Agreed.
But I went from that to oh my, okay, now what? So then it's a little bit more, but I kind of relate that. Okay, it's the same thing when you started a business at the very beginning. You started in your advertising agency. You're starting this. You did retail sales. You start from scratch. Starting from scratch and not having much of an income or thing like that, it's never really bothered me. Not to the point where it's going to prevent me from doing something. Yeah. To me, it's not. It hasn't been a straight line of success and leadership. It's been a freaking roller coaster.
Yeah.
But guess what? That makes you who you are.
100%.
Right? It really does. It makes you who you are.
Yep.
It makes you stronger in the long run. Yes. And it's okay when something doesn't turn out.
Yeah.
And you just keep on plugging along.
But I think that's a jewel though. Because I think so many people do expect some level of all right, I'm going to take off and I'm just going to keep going. And not knowing that, especially being an entrepreneur, that you have these peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to share and to talk about, especially with folks that are getting into this space. So for me, I would be curious to hear from you, when you do go through the valleys, what does that look like? How do you get out of it?
A lot of it's just mental.
Yeah. Okay.
I do a lot of hiking. I do a lot of reflecting out in the mountains. Some of it's spiritual, some it's just by myself, but it's out there. And I do a lot of thinking when I'm out there hiking. Now I'm doing a lot of listening to books, so maybe I probably need to do a little bit more of the thinking.
Layers of Leadership podcast.
Yeah. Hey, I listened to the last 4. I still got three more to go back, but you're doing an amazing job.
Appreciate it. Thank
you. But getting out of that, it's I think again it has to go with the examples I was set from mom and dad. I know that there was a point when the winery was getting started. We grew our own vegetables and we ate a lot of rabbit. because that was
I like a good
what,
rabbit.
well, but when it's the only thing and the only
Sure.
protein, because again, it was what it was, but there was a very conservative part in starting that business where it didn't look great, right? There was definitely some struggle, but that struggle and that sort of work ethic and, getting the community behind you, there was a lot of community that was involved with the success of my parents. And I learned a lot from that. My dad didn't know how to drive a tractor, let alone fix a tractor, let alone how to plow grapes. But, the man at 90 years old is still reading to get smarter every day.
Love it.
At 90. He's go home and he's doing a crossword puzzle, New York Crimes crossword puzzle, and
Staying sharp.
So staying sharp is part of it, but those valleys, and to see them struggle with the part where, okay, we need to delay payments for this, we need to delay this. And my mom has always been a proponent. He goes, if you can't make a payment, make a partial payment and have a conversation. Make a partial payment.
Hey.
Show them that you're not going to bail.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just not that lesson, but it's a lesson of, I have, again, an example. I have so much respect. I have a lot of friends that have started restaurants that are chefs, or they've invested their life into a restaurant, right? And they all don't work. And it just, the idea, oh my God, you've put your life savings, all of your energy, your thing, and the concept didn't work, or the timing didn't work, or there was a challenge with labor or whatever it happened to be, but they're back at it and they go at it again. I have so much respect for people who fail in business. And I don't even like that word. That concept didn't work. I don't consider it a failure. It's
Didn't
like,
work.
okay, well, I learned something. And a great example is Cantina Pedregal. Clay and Patricio, they got their restaurant. It's freaking brilliant. They got a Bib Gourmand, a Michelin rating for their brand new restaurant, but it only made it 4 months. And what do you do?
I didn't know it was 4 months.
The concept is amazing. The food was brilliant. But what they did is pivot. So learning to pivot is just crucial. And now Folsom is going to be blessed with the next taco, and it'll be, the best taco place north of east of Sacramento.
But I think that's a jewel.
Yeah.
Learning how to pivot.
Pivot's a big one.
So let's
I
pivot.
just got to learn to do that when I'm golfing. Get that pivot those hips, and put some power in that swing.
You and
Still
me
trying.
both.
Still trying.
So let's pivot to Wide Open Walls. 450 public artworks. That's freaking incredible.
It's a bunch, isn't it, Michael?
It's a ton.
It is.
I've been on the tours.
Yeah.
You started in 2016, is that right? With Open Walls?
This is our 8th year. So 16, or that might have been 17 was the Sacramento Mural Festival. So
Mural
I founded
Festival.
that.
The Mural
I founded
Fest,
that
that's right.
organization. I worked with the city's foundation and their art, and they decided not to do it after the first year. They did 11 murals the first year, and then it was like, they're done. I'm going to start Wide Open Walls.
So I was the chair of Metro Edge, and we were trying to do Characters in K, and that eventually happened. And so I want to give a shout out to them. Happened a couple years later, and I'm trying. I think we might have went
Mr.
to Austin.
Trethewey.
Yep,
That's
Phil,
it.
my
Yep.
guy,
Yep.
own it. And we saw some really cool things, how people were really using art to help build community and culture.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the inner city, and so artwork was always around. But this was cool because it gave the opportunity for you to help bring artists from all over to do some really, really cool stuff. And so I want to hear about how this even started and where we are and what the future looks like. And can I get a spray can and hit up a couple walls? All that.
We got Matt Haynes has got a spray yard on our street at 12th and R. You can come out on a weekend and spray out there.
Tag a little bit.
I want to give credit where credit's due.
Sure, please.
Sacramento had 400 murals that were cataloged before I started Wide Open Walls. Do you know how many you knew? Probably none. Maybe a couple.
Wow.
It was,
Really?
a lot of it was done from local artists. There was maybe a couple of articles that were ever written in one TV story. So it wasn't top of mind, and murals were not really cool other than to people in the art community. It wasn't something that people considered enhancing a neighborhood. It wasn't done to bring in diversity. Artists went and painted, and mostly for free. but there was 400 murals that were created. And one thing I realized was I used to take my dog on a walk, and I would walk the entire grid, 1 through 28, to Alhambra and all the way back at ABC, all the way down to the end of the railroad tracks. And then I started walking alleys, and I would walk every single morning. And at one point I said, oh, look, that's a cool mural. Oh, I never saw that mural before. And then I start walking alleys. Oh my God, there's 3 murals on an alley. So I went to the Sacramento Arts Commission, with Shelley, fellow ALF Class 18.
I used to be on the Sacramento Art Commission.
That's right. We did that together. And it was like I went to her to see, can you help? Is there a role that they have? And they agreed to basically use their nonprofit and basically do it under their guise and their expertise. We hired a consultant to basically help with the project, and that was how the Sacramento Mural Festival got started.
Really?
But since then, those 400 murals, we've sort of changed the mission from just art for all to, doing the public murals and doing this to one that is uplifting schools. So Wow Us, Wide Open Walls, uplifting schools. So along the ways of what I learned was those 400 murals were not getting any attention. They were mostly painted by local artists. There was a couple artists that had painted a dozen murals, or maybe even more in Sacramento, but still not top of mind. The advice that I got was, unless you bring in world-renowned muralists that do stuff on a large scale that not just Sacramento knows, but Los Angeles and New York and London and the world. And we brought in Shepard Fairey, and we brought in Howard Nazem. We brought in these world-renowned, and then Shepard. And the next thing you know, we're on the cover of Parade magazine, and we have the best mural in California with Shepard Fairey and Johnny Cash.
Wow!
So all of a sudden, in that first year, we had, I think, 20 different unique television stories. Right?
20.
And every newspaper and every article and every magazine wrote about it. And the next year it doubled, and the year after that it doubled, and then we're getting international press. So all of a sudden there's more funding to do those things. That's the second. Damn it, that's twice. Huh? You'll cut that part out.
We'll cut it out.
And that led to basically more funding and more opportunities for more artists. So the initial blast of bringing in a lot more international artists or regional artists into the area rubbed a lot of local artists the wrong way.
Which
and I get it.
We get it.
And we knew that was going to happen. But we sort of overcompensated. That might not be the right word. But we also gave the opportunity to local artists to shine, get paid the exact same thing as Shepard Fairey got painted for his 18-story, and you're painting on a brick wall for your very first mural. It's equitable.
Gotcha.
It doesn't matter your experience, your color, your sex. It didn't make any difference. Everybody's going to get paid the same thing to do a project for the festival. Some people like Shepard Fairey did it because he had a political motivation to do the Johnny Cash, which is about prison reform, right? And the Howard Nazem that's on the hotel, that's about big oil. So there's different political messaging that's in some of those projects. But it also led to a lot more opportunities for local artists. And I think of the things that I'm probably most proud of is, one, the new program is uplifting schools. But two is, I've produced over 20 murals by first-time local artists who had never painted a mural before. They were just good artists.
Gotcha.
They all got paid equitably. They all got paid the same amount of money. And those first years that we started, that was really, really important to treat everybody exactly the same. And almost 20 of those people are making a living painting murals now. And it's not through us. I think if I do my job right, we get an artist, whether introduced to basically look at this new form of expression, painting in public, and they don't need wide open walls anymore.
They can do
now
that.
They're doing commercial projects. Now they're known. Now they're out there doing their own thing, and they can charge a lot more than the stipend that we were able to pay, because we take care of all the materials, all the equipment, the public relations, all the different aspects in the video that come into publicity for the local scene.
So let me ask you this, David, and I'm very much into the arts and I enjoy that space. If you could go back and redo the process of Wide Open Walls, knowing what you know now, because I think the piece that you said is important, right?
Right.
Where some people, especially local artists, can feel like they were being passed over, or we could use those dollars to do this work. And we've been, Sacramento born. We're from here. We've been doing work. We just don't have the platform or the support to be able to do that. Would you approach it any differently than you've approached it here since you started?
I think so. I hired a consultant the first year and was not impressed. I was not only not impressed, I was pissed off about how he treated the local artist.
Yeah.
He was all about just treating the rock stars right. And nobody else got respect for him. So he got fired. I hired somebody else to do the job, and he didn't do any better. Even though that was the priority going into it, he just treated the rock star artists from out of town like they were rock star artists from out of town and ignored basically everybody local. If I would have done everything different, I wouldn't have paid attention to the advice that I got, and I would have made a decision to do that myself. Not pay him to do it. I would have spent more time learning on how to curate these artists. I now have probably 400 of artists that I've curated in a portfolio just from going to visit every other mural festival that's out there and making friends with the artists. So now there's a ton more people that want to come paint in Sacramento from all over the world that we don't necessarily have room for or the time for or the budget for. So to do something different, it was probably not use a consultant that third year in a row and jump off that cliff, as scary as it was. And pay me instead of him, because it was still a couple years before I got paid. But as much time and energy and effort as I put into it, I should have tried to stood up for myself in that position as a leader. It's not like anybody else took advantage of me. I'm the one that basically just didn't demand the opportunity to do it that way. So that would have been, I think, a little bit different as far as that was done.
When you think about art, what does that mean to you?
Man, it comes in so many different forms. I mean, it started off with music, my love of music, and then the art that was on the record albums back when they had albums.
Yes, the album covers.
Dr. Marion.
Oh, yeah.
Album covers and studying that. And I was never much, as far as creativity as that goes, but always had a great appreciation. And I can give that all to my mother. She was loved art history. She was a registered nurse, took that career off to be mother to 6 children. But at the end of raising those 6 kids, she studied art history. And as a youth, I was unbelievably blessed to be able to not go and see all these performers on stage, but to go to museums all the time. And it was everything from when King Tut came to the United States for the first time, and going to all these museums.
Cool.
We would go camping on vacations, but then go into go to San Francisco and go to the Modern Art Museum. So we would go camping here and then go see this gallery. We'd go camping here and go see art. And I still remember the first painting that my mother and father bought. I think it was like, you spent like all that grocery money on an oil painting of the ocean? So we could have had sugar cereal instead of creamed wheat or whatever it was. So I think what it means to me, a lot of different things. Somebody asked me the other day if I was an artist, and I said, well, no, I'm a curator is what I do. I produce projects, I do this. But they go, but you do this, and you... In your curation process, you're sharing your vision a lot of times with that artist on how things might be tweaked a little bit differently. And he goes, you add a lot of artistic talent into what it is that you do. So I've never really thought of anything as me being an artist other than maybe the musical end of it. But when it comes right down to it, there's so many different ways to look at art, right? I have a newfound appreciation of writers as artists. I used to be, 6 book a year. Excuse me, not
like
a day.
day?
But I also,
Sure.
I don't have quite the capacity to sit there and read for a long period of time. It's really easy for me to lose interest, even with exciting subjects. And now it's Audible or books on tape. And
versus this.
Dude, this year's not 4 months old, and I've already got almost 50 books in. So I'm on a tear.
You're
and
on
just
a
the
tear.
appreciation of great writing and the art and the skill and the research it takes to do that. So art means a lot of different things. For a while, it meant nothing more than collecting art. I wanted a collection of art like my
You
mother.
have a mean art collection.
Pardon?
When you lived downtown, you had that mean art collection.
But I have never stopped. And I have the vast majority is local art, but then, you save up and you collect something that's a little bit more. But I also have maybe not a patience level, but an appreciation level of different types of art that changes.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple times in my life when I moved out of the big house downtown.
Oh, yeah.
I invited everybody for a party under the premise of party, but I also put little bid tags on them with no minimum bid and got rid of 50 pieces of art that way.
Why didn't you invite me that time?
You
I probably couldn't afford it, but I still would have been like, let me just borrow this.
There was pricey art that went for $20, and then there was stupid art that went for $200.
See,
So
that would have been the perfect day to invite me.
Well, I'll do it again.
I appreciate
because there's
that.
a bunch of stuff sitting in the garage. But I like to buy and support, local artists. There is an artist right now by the name of Norma Roos. She is in her late 80s, an African-American woman in her late 80s who is an abstract painter like Jackson Pollock. And we've done
outta
2
here.
shows with hers. Yeah, I'll show you a little something. We got a little bit of
I
extras.
might have to check that one out.
I've basically taken a commission in art. So I have an abundance of her art in my home right now. So depending on the
Just
color
put my
scheme.
name on there.
Yeah, I think I got something,
So
something hanging up for you.
This has been incredible.
Thank you.
And as we get ready to close out this episode of Layers of Leadership, I'm just reminded of how much joy art has brought me and my life and my kids, whether it's poetry, whether it's lowriders, whether it's, amazing paints and murals or graffiti. I've seen it from Africa to Compton to Sacramento to the Crocker Art Museum to the African American Museum in Washington, D.C., and it's just art just tells an amazing story. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing in that space. You're a good person to lead that journey. I think it's going to be even funner as we move further along. As we close out, I want you, to let the folks know where they can find you, and then any last minute lessons or books or quotes or anything that have been very influential in your journey in leadership.
I like that you use the word funner, and I like the word, and I like your closing in involving your kids in the appreciation of art. Because when it comes right down to it, why am I devoting all this time to do stuff at schools? It's about the kids. Yeah. It's getting their hands dirty. Yep. And in a very large percentage, maybe not the biggest tall things where you're on the walls with big equipment, but a lot of the artists that we have employed, that we've led to do these projects, they want to involve kids. Yeah. They want to get them involved. They want to do it. So
art education is very important.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that you were on the Arts Commission, and one of the reasons I was on it too. And there are organizations that are doing Allison's doing an incredible job with her organization, Sacramento Arts, basically, getting arts back into the schools, which I think is real critical. That's where it happens. It could be from somebody, starting with an illegal spray can in their hand to basically end up doing
that.
Well, now we're trying to teach them the right way to do it, and we give them an outlet that's out there too.
I'm sure
there's some
walls with my tag on it somewhere.
Great quotes, but I think I kind of boil it down to, I think the average person will be driving down the road and they see a blank wall and I see a blank canvas ready to go.
Absolutely. There it is. This concludes this Layers of Leadership episode, and thank you, David. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes. So where can folks find you?
Instagram is social media is what everybody's looking at right now too. So Instagram is basically at Wide Open Walls, and so is the Facebook. And wideopenwalls.com is the website, which has, you'd mentioned going on tours, a map where you can pick your area that you want to go visit, and the map keeps expanding because we keep expanding to other communities. This year is a big year. We're going to be doing a lot more in West Sacramento and a new area in Elk Grove.
Nice. Excellent. It's been a pleasure.